I can't believe I'm trying this challenge. So you know how Minecraft bosses are meant to be beaten near the end of the game? Well, I'm gonna give myself 3 Minecraft days, which is as long as 1 hour in real life, to prepare to beat every boss in the game without dying. After those 3 days, I'll be teleported here, to the Colosseum, where I'll fight the bosses with only the materials I gathered. And I'll have to beat all the bosses in a row without dying. If I die even once while fighting the bosses, then I'll have to retry until I beat them all with 1 life. By the way, the bosses I'll be fighting are the Elder Guardian, the Wither, the Warden, and Ender Dragon. So to start, I opened up some new Minecraft worlds. I tried a lot of worlds, and most times I couldn't gather the resources I needed, and other times I just died. So eventually I got a good world, and this one is the one we'll be using for the challenge. I spawned into a desert next to a single azalea tree, and after cutting it down, I crafted a boat and went in search of a better biome. I thought at first this was a bad world, but after doing a bit of searching, I came across a desert village. This was very good luck, because this village was going to have some things I'd need if I wanted to beat this challenge. Upon arriving, I robbed the villagers of their beds because I'd need them to kill the Ender Dragon, and I also took the hay bales for food. After looting the village some more, I found my first piece of iron. This iron might not look like anything to you guys, but trust me, iron was going to be crucial in beating this challenge. I knew that all the bosses were going to be hard, but there's one boss in particular which is much harder than the rest. That being the Warden, the mob that can two-shot a player with netherite armor. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, Rovent, how on earth are you going to take down the Warden with iron armor? Well, that's a good question. Luckily, I had a strategy for that, but I would need a certain item to do it, and about 2 stacks of iron. But we'll worry about that later, because right now I had an iron golem to kill. After getting some more iron, I continued sailing in search of other things. Eventually, I found this massive portal underwater, but it didn't have anything useful in the chest. I also found a sunken ruin which also had nothing, so I kept searching for more chests, but I realized I was wasting too much time, so I hopped on the boat and landed on the shore. In the distance, I could see another desert village, which was perfect. By the way, if you notice any lag throughout this, it's because I had my render distance to the max to find any villages on the horizon, which luckily this worked. After I killed the golem, I took some hay bales and immediately left the village, because daylight was running out and I realized I couldn't get all the iron I needed just from villages. So I made my way towards this jungle and came across a massive cave opening. This was a literal gold mine. Well, more like an iron mine, because the amount of iron in this cave was insane. After getting some iron, I wanted to continue exploring the cave for more, but realized I didn't have any wood. So I went back to the surface and grabbed some jungle wood and some extra food. As I looked around, I saw something in the distance. The item I needed to beat the Warden, pumpkins. So I ran towards them as the moon rose on the horizon, marking the start of the first night. Sadly, I realized that there were only 2 pumpkins, and one of them was completely blown up by a creeper, which almost killed me as well, by the way. But anyway, I definitely needed to find some more pumpkins before the end of the 3 days. I also crafted a shield and mined some exposed iron in this clearing. Afterwards, I went back to the cave and got some coal, and continued my search for iron. And this is when the grind truly began. Finding that giant cave was the best luck in the world, because it single-handedly gave me most of the iron I needed. For the rest of the night, I continued mining and mining. Eventually, I came across a deeper part of the cave, and of course I had to go explore. There were lots of mobs, but at this point they were my last concern. I continued grinding until I had over a stack of iron, and I could see the sun from the cave's opening. I took one last look around and couldn't see any more iron, so I made my way back up to the surface. On the second day, I ran across the landscape until I came across another part of the cave opening, which had a single piece of iron. I explored some more passageways, but I came up with nothing. So this had the potential to be a big problem. I was halfway through the timer, and I still needed more pumpkins, more iron, and something else which I haven't mentioned yet. Snow. I know this sounds weird, but trust me that I'll need it to beat the Warden. So anyway, as I kept traveling, I came across a forest which had some more pumpkins, also known as the best block in the game, by the way. And hopefully with these, I could beat the Warden. After getting a decent amount, I continued running and eventually set sail again. Then, on the edge of the horizon, I saw it, a snow biome. This was exactly what I needed, so I sailed towards it. On the way there, I found some more ocean ruins, which I hadn't learned my lesson from last time, because I tried getting the treasure again, which ended up being useless. Anyway, I continued going towards the snow as nightfall approached. As I kept going, I noticed a village on the horizon, which was going to be useful. At this point, I still needed about 40 more pieces of iron, and the iron golem was going to be helpful with getting that. I also looted a shipwreck on the way there, which thankfully had a ton more iron. Basically, the shipwreck and village was my saving grace, because there was no more time to go mining. My last mining trip costed me an entire night, and finding another cave like that wasn't going to be easy. So I entered the village and was attacked by mobs on all sides. I entered a house and made it my temporary base as I started to smelt all the iron I mined over the past past 2 days. And as we were approaching the final day, it was almost time to gear up for the challenge. While I waited for the iron to smelt, I took down the golem, and then I made a shovel to gather some snow. Also got jump scared by a creeper. So I guess now is the perfect time to explain myself. Why did I need all this snow, pumpkins, and iron? Well, other than using the snowballs to destroy the end crystals, I would also need snow for a much more important reason, and that's to make snow golems. And yes, I know snow golems are one of the weakest mobs in the game, but they also serve another purpose, acting as decoys, and I'll get into what that means when I fight the bosses. Anyway, after getting some snowballs, I returned back home and started collecting the iron and sorting out my inventory. The final day had arrived. There were now only 20 minutes left before the challenge, and I had to use every minute of that to get fully prepared. This day would either make or break the entire challenge, so I headed out and collected some stone to make a new shovel. I also counted up all the iron I gathered over the past 2 days, and to my surprise, I only had 1 stack and 52 ingots, which sounds like a lot, but it's not enough, because this challenge would only be possible if I had at least 2 stacks of iron. Now this was a big problem, because without that extra iron, it could cost me the entire challenge. I frantically searched for any exposed iron in some caves around the village, but returned with nothing. I continued searching on the sides of cliffs, but still nothing. At this point, it was the final day, and I didn't have any time left to go and mine. I collected some snowballs on the way and continued searching. Every cave I came across had nothing, and the sides of the cliffs had no iron either. At this point, I was losing hope because time was running out. That was until I came across another piece of iron, which still wasn't enough, but at least it was something. I figured I would go to higher ground to search more cliff edges, and as I reached the top of a cliff, I spotted something at the very edge of my vision. It was another village, and not only that, but there was also exposed iron on the surface, which was incredibly lucky. If I collected this iron and I killed the iron golem from that village, then I may have enough for 2 stacks of iron. So I ran back to my old village to grab everything from my house, and then moved to the new village. I also found some extra iron on the way, which was awesome. Suddenly, things were looking up. I had almost all the iron I needed, I had pumpkins, I had snow, and beds to kill the ender dragon. When I reached my house, I started smelting the rest of the iron, and I also threw out all the useless items I had in a chest. With the first stack of iron, I made a set of armor, and an iron axe. And most importantly, I made 4 iron blocks, which would be crucial in this challenge. And I think you know at this point what I'm going to be doing with those blocks. Anyway, as I did all of this, the final night approached. The final night had arrived, and now was the time to get everything prepared. I used the snowballs to make snow blocks for the snow golems, and I made an extra shield just in case my one broke during the challenge. Finally, I dumped the rest of my useless items and equipped my armor. With my inventory sorted, I made my way to the new village, which would be my final destination before the Colosseum. I sailed across the river and made my way through the mountains. I was careful not to get hit by any mobs because I didn't want my armor to be damaged before the challenge began. And from the distance, I saw it, the Tiger Village. I didn't really need the iron from there anymore, but it would be good to have it as an extra safety precaution. When I arrived in the village, I rang the bell to let everyone know I had arrived. In all honesty, this village was the most peaceful location I had encountered throughout the past 3 days, so I took some moments to enjoy the atmosphere, and then got back to work. I gathered some more wood because I wanted at least a stack of planks to have for the challenge, as I barely had any building blocks at that point. After that, I camped out at this house for a little while as I got more resources, and then mentally prepared myself for the challenge. I looked up at the sky and I saw that dawn was arriving, and there were only a few minutes left until the challenge. Come on guys, you have to pose correctly for this. Oh hi, you caught me getting the thumbnail for this video. Anyway, at that point I had completely forgotten about the iron golem of that village, and I didn't need it anymore. So I rang the bell as the final seconds closed in. I also got a couple more pumpkins just to be safe, and waited for the countdown to be over. By the way, the full footage of these 3 days will be linked below if you want to see it, because this narration was just a summary of the important events. Finally, the timer had finished, and the real challenge began. I finally made it to the Colosseum. This was the place I had been preparing for all this time. My first attempt at this challenge was surprisingly good. I beat the Elder Guardian, and then I fought the Wither, which I was fortunate enough to survive. But then I came across the Warden. For this, I carved the pumpkins and set up my iron golem. So for this strategy to work, I would need to ambush the Warden. For context, by the way, a long time ago I found a strategy to defeat the Warden with just an iron golem and some iron. Here you would use the iron to constantly heal the golem as he killed the Warden. But it seems like they patched this because the Warden now kills you if you stand behind the golem. But luckily I found a way to get around this. I would use the snow golems as decoys, and their snowballs would distract the Warden as I healed the iron golem. So I tried it, and it went well for a little while, but then out of nowhere this Warden suddenly noticed me, and I died. And this was the first of many deaths. Every time I died, I reset the world, and continued trying to beat the challenge with the items I had. After that first attempt, I couldn't even manage to kill the Wither again for a long time. Sometimes I died to the Elder Guardian, other times I would get mining fatigue from it and I had to restart, and the rest of the times I simply died to the Wither. Whenever I did get up to the Warden, it kept killing me, even with my strategy. Not to mention, one time the Warden killed the Iron Golem before I even got there. Long story short, this was a very difficult challenge, and I must have failed over 50 times, but every time I did it, I got a little better. Just like any challenge, if you want to overcome it, you have to keep trying and adapting. So finally, after many deaths, this happened. So I started with the Elder Guardian. This was by far the easiest of the bosses, and my strategy with it was to kill it as soon as possible, before it had a chance to kill me or give me mining fatigue. After a few critical hits, it was taken care of. So I healed up and I got ready for my next battle with a Wither. The Wither is much harder than the Elder Guardian, because if you get withered by it, then the challenge is basically over. But through practice, I found a good way to beat the Wither at close range, and that's by doing a specific movement. So to beat the Wither, I constantly moved backwards in a circle as I landed critical hits on it, while trying to avoid getting hit by the skulls at the same time. If I got withered even once, then it would all be over, as the effect would ruin the timing of my hits. I got lucky though, as I only got the wither effect near the end of this fight, and I managed to kill it before it could kill me. Now, it was time to fight the Warden. I lost to it so many times at this point, but at this time, I was confident I could beat it. So I set up my placement of snow golems and my iron golem, and got the carved pumpkins ready. This was an insane setup, because my goal was to overwhelm the Warden so it wouldn't focus on me. I did that through throwing snowballs in a different direction to get it to lose focus on me, and the snow golems also created more noise for it to follow. Through sheer luck and good golem placement, it worked. A stack of iron ingots later, the iron golem finally killed the Warden. As you can see, every single piece of iron was important. So I thanked the golems for their service and moved on to the Ender Dragon. I could barely believe I had survived up to this point, honestly, but I still had to go to the end dimension. The portal was actually behind this wall, so I had to break through to get there. And when I got to the end, I was ready for the final battle. By the way, if you're wondering why there's no Enderman, it's because the challenge is just about fighting the bosses, and also because I forgot to turn mob spawning on. So I started taking down the end crystals with the snowballs, and climbing to the ones with cages around them. And after some time, I finally took them all down. Now was the time to finally put the beds to use. Sadly, I had really bad placements and the beds didn't even get the dragon to half health, which meant I would have to use my axe. So I paused the game and I searched up how to see mob hitboxes, and I found out that the keyboard shortcuts are F3 and B, which make this last part of the fight much easier. So I kept waiting for the dragon to perch and slowly chipped away at its health. This process took a very long time because I didn't want to die, until finally this happened. Yes! Oh my god. Yes! Yes! We did it. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments so I can continue with these types of challenges. And if not, let me know what else I should do. And with that, I'll see you next time.